What is up? What is up? Let's see how things are going today. All right. So welcome everybody. Welcome to today's stream. It's a little bit of a studio Saturday, but with a little bit of a twist. I'm thinking today that I'm going to do less heavy producing and more just kind of talk about some things that are going on and break out some strategies for any producers that tune in or that are hanging out with us today, just to kind of talk a little bit about like my release plan and that kind of thing. So yeah, starting a little bit late today. I had to go pick up some barbecue. So as I told you before, food's gotta be the priority sometimes. If I'm going to get barbecue and I get stuck in traffic, like that's just, it happens. But I gotta give me some barbecue. It's been a while, so appreciate y'all tapping in with me anyway. I really do. Oh, I feel a sneeze coming on. Ooh, excuse me, y'all. My sinuses are like, it's been raining a lot here and my sinuses are just awful right now. But yeah, so okay. We'll go ahead and we'll give a couple minutes for everybody to come in here and we'll just tap into some stuff and just kind of hang out for a little bit. But yeah. Let's see. I'll pull up. What should I pull up to work on today? Oh, okay. I was like, what is that? That's notifications just from me going live. Okay. All right. Let's see here. I think I'll tap into. We'll get Europa fired up. Yeah, so that's the plan for today. Real chill, real casual. Just I'm actually gonna spend a little bit talking about some of the release ideas that I do because I do a lot of marketing for my own releases and stuff. So that kind of is part of the territory when you're independent and you're working with indie labels that don't necessarily have massive marketing. Like they have DJ promo lists and that's about it, a couple playlists, so you kind of have to do things yourself. I've been doing it for 9-10 years now, so I have tests and strategies and stuff I like to do, stuff that's worked, stuff that doesn't work. So go ahead and break some of that down, just kind of give you all a little insight into kind of what I'm thinking about doing per se for this next track I have coming out. It's actually my first release of 2021, which is surprising and also not surprising to me, but yeah, so we'll get into that a little bit and then we'll just kind of hang out a bit. I don't think I'm gonna do too much crazy production or anything like that. I mean, I might talk about some stuff, but not gonna go super crazy in depth. And then I don't know, maybe even play a little games today. I don't know. It just depends on how everybody's feeling. But yeah, let's see. Any housekeeping I can think of right now. Nothing housekeeping at the moment. Probably next couple of streams once my remix is sent to mastering and it's out of my head completely. That's probably when I'll start having some more updates and getting some more things, finished up. And if y'all hear something crazy in the background, it's about to thunderstorm here, so you hear some random boom, that kind of stuff. It's just most likely the weather. If it's something else, I can't help that. But just wanted to give everybody a fair warning before we get started with things. So yeah. Anyway, okay, let's see who all is tapped in here right now. Let's see. Excuse me. All right, so we got a little bit of activity, a little bit of action. So we'll go ahead and jump into it in about a minute or so. I'm running a little late, so I'm not really gonna be too strict on time. But yeah. Anyway, okay, let's see. We'll go ahead and jump into something here. A little something. So this is my old track Europa that I've been working on for a while. So this is not the track that is coming out soon. I just figured this would be a good track to work on stream because I don't think I can really show anything more of the remix without it kind of defeating the purpose. You know, I'd like to keep some stuff a secret, so but yeah, I think real quick I'll just kind of talk a little bit about some like strategies and things that I have going on. So actually, stream marker. Let me try this real quick. Yeah. Sorry, I'm gonna try something new on Twitch today. So I just added a little marker. Okay. So one of the things that I like to do when it comes to releasing, I have like a checklist I made of cool ways to promote, you know, your release and strategize and figure things out. And so the first thing I do is it's always about finishing the track. If you don't do that, then all these other steps are kind of redundant and a waste of your time because the track's not done. So first thing I do is I finish the track. Second thing I do is I make sure I get it mastered, whether it's I have to go to my own guy or the label has someone who masters for me. I get it mastered, give my feedback, approve it, or, you know, send it back to get it redone, that kind of thing. And don't be afraid if you don't like the way it sounds in a master, if it's too bright or if it's not bright enough, it's too dark, whatever. You can go ahead and get them to redo it. That's what you're, especially if you're paying for it, that's what you're paying for. You're paying to get the sound you want. So don't ever feel like, oh, he or she mastered it, so that's it. I gotta just let it go. I can't really do anything else to it. No, that's your track. That's your money you paid. That's a service they're providing. If they're good, they will go back and forth with you in the drawing board, like not 8,000 times, but a couple times until you get they get what you're going for. So that's so you get it finished up, get it mastered. Then after that is where you know what, actually I might pull up my template real quick just so I'm not reading off the top of my head. I pulled up my phone real quick. So after that is where you kind of get into the more specific kind of switch more specific kind of things. So let's see, I put it in right here. Okay, so you have here, finished music master track. So now you need to go ahead and decide on how you're going to release it. So if you're going to try and send it to labels, to indie labels, to major label, if you're going to self-release it, if you're going to start your own label and then release it, all those kind of questions and answers, you have to kind of figure that out on your own. So, you know, in my case, I'm using on my remix coming up, I'll use this for an example. So it's going to be an indie label. So I actually was commissioned to do the remix by them. So I finished the remix, got it mastered, and then once I sign the contract and hand over the pre-master for mastering, basically once it gets finished, we'll decide a release date, and then we'll go from there. And so when you are deciding a release date, I think one of the things you need to do is you need to be very, very, very specific and very, very, very mindful that you need time to do all this stuff. You need time to develop your marketing assets. You need time to go through and send it to promo list so it can get on, you know, DJs mixes or start getting played at clubs or played on radio shows. So I would say at least 1 month minimum, if not more. Um, the worst thing you can do, and this is kind of like some inside baseball right here for y'all. I'll go ahead and drop this from my experience, and I've been put on one Spotify editorial playlist, and it was totally random. The worst thing you can do, especially if you're trying to get on one of those Spotify playlists, is put a track up for release like in a week. So if I were to start a track today and finish it tomorrow, I'll have it released next Friday. It's almost, unless your track is freaking Michael Jackson and Tupac and Johnny Cash, unless it's some super legendary person that a million people already know and listen to, your chances of getting playlisted are like pretty much they're low. They're not 100% 0%, but they're really low. You have to give yourself time to work the promotion, and you have to also give Spotify time to listen and decide where it will fit, because it might not fit on a Spotify US playlist, but Spotify has playlisting offices in almost every country that they operate in. So it could not end up there, but it could end up on Spotify Mexico Deep House playlist, or Spotify Finland, or Spotify Germany, or so and so. So you definitely need to give yourself time and give the track time. At least 2 weeks is my minimum, but I really think it should be a month. Give yourself a month to work it like that. So yeah, so you need to, after you decide to release date and give yourself a month, you make sure your track, the label or used, gets sent to your distributor, and it can start to get pre-uploaded. After that, this depends on what country you live in and kind of what your business looks like. So, because remember, this is the music business. It's just, there's more than just making tracks. You gotta set yourself up for success. Like, nobody's just gonna. I mean, okay, people will do things for you and stuff if you're signed to a big label, and that kind of stuff. But that is a whole different ball game, and that's usually you're trading part of your profits for the convenience and basically their resources for them to do everything. But if you're independent like me, and you're independent across the board from producing to like your publishing and everything, you're going to make sure that you register your track with all the appropriate services. So whichever pro you've signed with, performing rights organization, you're going to register your new track with them. You're going to make sure it's registered with Sound Exchange. I'll say this, but I'm still investigating it myself personally, but the MLC is supposedly the newest thing in the United States. This is all US based right now. It differs, the names of the organizations and stuff, based on where you live. But the MLC is supposed to have your songwriter mechanical, I believe it is, for the sound recording, not the composition. So the MLC is something that I'm investigating, but that will probably be one that you'll add on to your registrations. And then I like to register my tracks with Nielsen's the SoundScan and the ISRC and the UPC database, because that's who tracks your sales, and it tracks. You're basically telling Nielsen. Okay, here's a quick way for me to explain this. If you ever want to end up on a Billboard chart, top 500, top 100, whatever, genre top 100, you have to have your song registered with Nielsen. You basically have to tell them to pay attention to your sales, your release, your streams, because if you don't, they're just not going to look or know, and they're not going to be able to verify it. Like, you could end up going silver or gold, if your track goes viral, or if you have a big release. But if you don't tell them, hey, look at this track, put it in your data and pull it when you're pulling all your other tracks, they're not going to know, and then they're not going to certify you, and then you have to go back and do it retroactively, and it's a pain in the butt. So I would suggest looking up Nielsen, and there's a bunch of good blog posts from reputable sites about what it is with Nielsen and what they do, Nielsen SoundScan. So I would definitely look at registering your track with them, and it's free to register. Basically what you're doing is you're putting in your info, like your name, your number, and then the track title, the track artist, the ISRC, and the UPC codes, which you should get from your distributor. That's a good point. You should get your ISRC and your UPC codes from your distributor. And that is basically how how they know to track for Billboard and for the other charts and stuff like that. And then if they do track, they know who to contact. Go, hey, you went platinum or you went gold. Here's the RIA will get in touch with you, blah blah blah, and then you get certified and all that. So that, and even there have been plenty of indie artists that get certified. Like, you don't think it's unobtainable because you're not Drake or some giant artist. Because the worst thing that could happen is you think that it couldn't happen, so you don't do any of these steps, and then your track pops off, and then boom, you're sitting there trying to do all this stuff after the fact, and you're having to wait a year and a half for it to all get counted up, because if you don't do it in time, it takes time for them to go through and verify everything. So it's much better if you just do it ahead of time and get it done. And also too, it'll help you get paid faster, because all your royalties, especially like your performance rights royalties, your PRO stuff, your songwriter royalties, they're all, you get paid, like, let's say it depends on which one you're a part of, but I know for BMI, like they split the year into quarters, and each quarter pays like 9 months later. So BMI songwriters will be getting paid, I think, next month, either this month or next month, for like last year, for a portion of last year, so a quarter in last year. So it's basically, you want to make sure you have all that done and up to date and correct, so you can get paid at the right time and get paid everything you're owed. Sound Exchange is another one, because Sound Exchange is mostly for like digital, non-interactive streaming and stuff. So like Pandora and other online radio stations that people can't change, they can't switch, it just plays randomly. And especially if you've never signed up for that, you might have thousands of dollars from people listening to yourself on Pandora, over 5-6 years. I think they hold payments for like 3 years. So and after that, if you don't claim it, it goes into the big black box, which you don't want that to happen. So yeah, it's imperative that you get your stuff researched and registered, and you choose organizations and companies that work for you. I mean, a lot of them are free, or some of them have application fees, like I think ASCAP does. But I know BMI, to apply for a songwriter is free, but to apply as a publisher, it costs money, because they want to deal with publishing companies. So, and also there's a couple more databases. There's like All Music, MediaBase, and Grace Note. I'm not 100% sure those are still necessary, but I would do it just to be safe. I know MediaBase and All Music, if your stuff gets played on satellite radio, that's where they fetch like the track name, the track title, and the artwork and stuff a lot of times. So that's a good place to have it, because what you don't want to happen is your stuff, maybe your track gets picked up on Sirius XM, on Diplo's channel or something. He plays it. But if it's not registered or whatever, you literally have royalties there that you just made that you can't get because they don't know who to pay. So got to make sure you take care of all that, is kind of the moral of the story here. So you register your track. Kind of to recap what we're talking about: you finish your music, you master your track, you decide on the type of release, you pick your release date, you send your master track to your distributor, you receive your ISRC and UPC codes, you register your track with the appropriate service. So that's like your PROs, your mechanical royalties, stuff like that. It used to be Harry Fox was included with that, but now the MLC's basically taken over the duties of Harry Fox when it comes to paying out. So now we get on to like the more important, well, not more important, but the more like pertinent strategies when it comes to like promotional and promoting and marketing. So you should next, you should get it registered within, like, you send it to your distributor after it's mastered. That first week should be registering it everywhere and getting all that stuff done, and then getting your promotional materials made. So if you're doing a music video, make sure you're finalized. Your artwork has to be finalized before you send it to your distributor, so that should be done already. But if you're doing other art like social media banners or a Facebook or Spotify Canvas video or a promo video on YouTube or TikTok or whatever, that stuff should be done as soon as possible so that then within a week to 2 weeks of your release date, you can start putting that out there to start building promo hype. After that, when your track gets uploaded by your distributor to the different platforms, you can sign into Spotify for Artists and you can actually go and pitch one song from your upcoming release. Basically, you can pitch it to Spotify, to their editorial team, and they can decide whether or not they like it and whether or not they think it'll be big, and they can put it onto a playlist if they so choose. And I will go ahead and kind of talk about this in depth because this happened to me. So in 2019, I actually had one release that my release Deadbolt came out, and my label that I was working with on that release and myself, we decided to hold the release and have it release basically. What's the best way to put this? Okay, so we held the release instead of releasing it quickly because I was playing my first international show in March. I played at Tallinn Music Week in Tallinn, Estonia. I went over there, and so we decided to have it released like the day before the night of my show in Tallinn. So what happened was I pitched it to Spotify the week before, 2 weeks before, and I mentioned in my pitch, because you can mention anything you want at the end of your pitch. I was like, I'm doing a standard marketing campaign, I'm sending it to different blogs and getting coverage, and I'm also playing my first international show and hoping to premiere this at the show and play it for, my first international crowd and stuff. So it came out, a couple weeks went by, it did decent numbers, and then like a week and a half later, 2 weeks later, randomly, one of the Spotify editorial people put it on the lounge, soft house, deep house playlist. And that playlist has like 1.4 million followers. And then, it has another probably thousands of people that listen to it randomly without following. So, suffice to say, my track went like super, it went wild. It made over 1 million streams in 2019. And then it's still to this day, it's the one track on my Spotify that still gets consistent plays, like in decent numbers. And it also it was just kind of wild. Like I ended up getting that track licensed to a music library that well, not necessarily a music library, but like a company that does music for like bars and hotels, the like lobby music and stuff. They actually sync license a track to add to their library for their clients. So for about 1.5 years, 2 years, if you went to the Hard Rock Hotel, the MGM Grand, any Bar Louie, a couple different Hilton hotels and stuff, you could have heard my song Deadbolt in the lobbies and like in the hotel in their music track. So it was a very interesting. Dave and Buster's is another client of theirs. That getting it on that playlist and having it kind of take off led to all sorts of new opportunities that I was super surprised by and not expecting. And I was lucky that I had things registered ahead of time stuff because I actually got to, see the whole process and see how it's supposed to work. Because for a while I didn't have any of my music registered and stuff like that. Excuse me. And so it was like I didn't really know that what I was doing was not correct. So yeah, let's just say it was a very interesting time, and it's kind of still paying benefits because now it's like when people go to my Spotify page, I already have that social proof that, oh, he's got this many streams on this track, it must be pretty decent, I'll check it out. Like that's a good thing per se. Like social proof is important because unfortunately we as, when I say us like producers, but fans especially, and sometimes even producers, like metrics and stuff like that, it matters, promoters and all that. Like they won't even entertain ideas with you. Some people, they won't even entertain questions or requests from you if you don't reach a certain eye test, which is not necessarily the greatest thing in the world, but it's how it is. So it's always good to kind of figure out ways to kind of combat that legitimately, and having your stuff registered, and scheduling your release ahead of like a big milestone. Maybe it's your first festival of the summer or something like that. If you go ahead and schedule your release to coincide with that date, then you can promo it. And so when people are, checking out the festival and you're getting promoted there, they're also going to see your new track pop up in like the Google search stuff, and the SEO, and like, you can say at the festival, hey, my new track's out tonight. Go to my website and get it, that kind of thing. You have all sorts of different options, and now that clubs and festivals are coming back, it's the perfect time to start getting some bookings, and then using those bookings to effectively help promote your music, because that's the whole point of everything. So yeah, that kind of segues into my next topic with promotional materials and pitch to Spotify. You should have a targeted media list and or a promo list. And if you okay, and I'm going to also say this too, because if you don't want to do any of this stuff, if you just want to make music, you need to go ahead and get in with a publishing company to register all your music for you and handle that. And usually you can do an admin deal where they will administrate it and they'll only take a small percentage. Whereas if you do like a standard publishing deal, there's different terms, but they'll end up basically buying or owning part of your publishing, if for them to push it and administer it and make money off it, and then they'll pay you a residual basically. So like publishing deals, I think admin deals are okay. I would not do a standard publishing deal because I don't want anybody else really owning my half of some of music, or my own music, that kind of thing. Like, it's different dealing with different entities. So some people love publishing deals because they don't have to worry about pitching it to music supervisors for sync placements, or for inclusion in movies and TV shows, or pitching it to all that kind of stuff. That publishing agency does that. And then you also would, if you don't want to do any of the marketing stuff, you need to just hire a PR firm. But that's if you don't, with the PR firm, usually you come with a certain amount of money for a campaign to pay them, and then they'll do everything. So that's another option if you have the funds to do it. Like, but if you don't want to, if you want to do this yourself because maybe you're indie, or maybe you don't have the money to, or maybe you want to learn what to do so that if you do decide to hire somebody in the future, you'll know kind of what's right and what's wrong, and whether or not they're scamming you, basically. Like, you should, at least learn these things and try these things. So the next thing is a targeted media list, and that is basically a spreadsheet or some type of list or piece of paper with um, blogs and playlist curators, and I have a list with like blogs, social media people, influencers, all that, and I also have a list with just DJs for DJ promo. So you can kind of, you can combine them or you can do separate ones. It's really up to you. But you need a targeted media list that you can get people's contact info, reach out to them, establish a relationship with them, talk to them on Twitter or whatever, or meet them at an event, and then be able to basically email them and say, hey, hope you're doing well. Good to hear from you. Here's my new track. It sounds like it's influenced by so and so, blah, blah, blah. Give them your description, send them the track either in a private link or usually a private streaming link's better that has downloads enabled, because if they don't want to download it, it won't be stuck in their inbox clogging it up. And blogs are still important. Don't get me wrong. They're not as essential as they used to be, because a lot of the music discovery happens now on like Spotify and Apple Music instead of happening on blogs, but they still have their purposes. And blogs are also good because if you get legitimate press coverage and blog coverage from reputable outlets and stuff, that will actually help you get verified on social media easier, because if you care about that, or if you get to the point where you need to, if you get big enough or whatever, the first thing they look at is like, oh, has Billboard or Rolling Stone written about this person, him or her, or they, or has you know, so and so Wikipedia. If you want a Wikipedia entry, you gotta have some verified press and some reputable press behind your name. So all that's still pretty important. And then, also pitch to indie playlist curators, because indie playlists are basically a not easy way, but it's a way for you to get the Spotify algorithm working in your favor. People will be listening to you on playlists. They might heart the song and add it to their playlists and stuff. And then all of a sudden you have, your new track already has 1,000 people listening to it on a playlist, in the first week. So Spotify will go, this track has some traction already. Let's start pushing it to other people and see how it does. That's basically the whole simplified Spotify algorithm. So yeah. So then after that, I like to I'm kind of breaking down in a very generic, bullet pointy way. I like to do Spotify pre-save campaigns, because pre-saves help you on playlisting, especially on Spotify. It basically, if you have a lot of pre-saves and a lot of likes before the track's even out, it basically tells the Spotify algorithm, hey, this isn't even out yet, and it has like 100, 200, 1,000 likes. We should maybe look at playlisting this, or checking it out. And also it'll help you get on Discover Weekly and other playlists. So yeah, sorry, I was like, why did the lights just flash? This storm's kind of bad. But yeah, that was a little bit weird. So then you have afterwards post previews to your social media, your TikTok, your YouTube, your SoundCloud, and also make a post on your website, and send an email out to your email list promoting it, and then release day. So yeah, it's there's a lot of strategies here. I've also, one thing I will add is that I really think that part of your pre-save campaign, you should run social media advertisements on like Facebook. I only have testing and experience on Facebook and Instagram ads, but I've seen some good results, and they're actually real people. They're not, bots or anything. They're click farms. So I think that's definitely something you should still do, and it can help you gain traction as well on the beginning of a release. If you go on YouTube, and I believe his name is Andrew Southworth, he has a good video showing how he got like 30,000 streams in the first week with his track by running just a basic Facebook conversion ad with a video and a swipe up to listen kind of thing, and he just targeted new listeners. So yeah, I have complicated thoughts about Facebook and stuff, because as a person, and as a person, it feels invasive at times and stuff. But as a marketer and somebody's trying to get my music out there, it's one of the few ways that you can even the playing field for cheap without having to spend thousands of dollars on radio or anything like that. Is you can actually get your stuff out in front of people, and then go from there. So it's like, it's a kind of a catch-22. If you're not on there and you're not using it, you're gonna have to figure out some other way. Maybe if you're on Reddit or another site like that, you can use that. But it's now that festivals and club shows and stuff are back, it's gonna be a little bit better to have more options, because you can do in-person marketing. You can have like download cards printed out with a QR code that can send people to the new track. You can do all sorts of things like that. But for the last year or so, basically online has been the way to do things, because it's been the only way people can get out and reach their fans, like Twitch, stuff like that. So yeah, it's basically, it's a lot. I know it's a lot of other stuff you have to do outside of just the music, and it's kind of annoying. but it's like you got to do that sometimes just to kind of make it happen. Oh, Plumas, good to see you, my friend. And so yeah, we it's a lot. It is. It can be overwhelming, and when you're just trying to focus on making tracks, and then all of a sudden, oh, I have to make videos, I have to video edit, I have to photo edit, I gotta email 20 million people, stuff like that. But what's up, my man? We're good. I'm just talking kind of about my release strategies, and I have a checklist of how to release a track right now, and things I'm doing as I'm actually doing it because I'm finishing up a remix tonight or tomorrow, and I'm sending it off the mastering. So I was kind of talking about my okay, I'll hydrate. I was talking about my release strategy. I got the body armor today, super hydration. But yeah, so I mean, it's one of those things where you want to just, a lot of people pine for the good old days where they could just make music and not have to do anything else. But I feel like a lot of people pine for the good old days, kind of ignoring that in the good old days you were either getting screwed over out of all your money, or and you're getting worked like a dog, or you were just there was only one path to enter the industry, and that was it. There's no other way. There were no indie musicians back then. It was either you get into the system or you quit, or you quit, you give up. So I'd much rather have the chance to, get into the industry on my own terms and do my own thing and not have just one set pathway, even if it means I have to do a little bit more work. Because if I like try it and I flame out or whatever, well, I tried it, whatever. I'm never going to be the type of person that sits there and doesn't ever try any of this stuff but then complains about it. To me, that's just like goofy and it's kind of lame. So, yeah, that's just my opinion, but we'll see. One of those days, like one of these days, things will kind of change up and switch out. But I'm not really. I wouldn't say it's like stressing or anything. I just think you gotta kind of gotta mix it up a little bit. So yeah, but all right. So I think I hadn't really planned on doing anything else too crazy. Um, besides talking about that, talking about those strategies. I will say, kind of on my soapbox today, just talking about stuff, but it's nice. Like I do this sometimes with my electrofans.com family. I write pro articles for them and stuff just about release strategies and stuff like that. I only like to talk about things when I've actually done them and like I've tested them and if made sure they work for me, because another thing in the music industry is that something can work for one person. And I actually heard this from a very good music marketer that I listen to personally. In the music industry, something can work well for one artist and it can literally flounder and fail for another. So it's like you should always listen to stuff, take it with a grain of salt, and maybe try it out first. But you should never like bank on things as being 100%. Somebody's trying to sell you something as 100% legit to work in the music industry. It's either payola or they're lying. Like that's really about it. Exactly. There's no blueprint. It's good to see you. It's good to see you today. Okay, is that MIPBN? Is that it? If that's an I or an L, I'm sorry, but it's good to see you. Thank you for stopping by. But yeah, there is no blueprint. There's no one way. I thought I was sitting here on my soapbox talking to myself. But yeah, there's no one way. Um it's all like a to me it's like a choose your own adventure, if that makes sense. Like if you remember those books and stuff in those games, like a visual novel where you can kind of take your story wherever you want to. And it's yeah, it's an interesting industry, that's for sure. It's definitely not easy. If anybody says it's easy, they're either super gifted or they're freaking insane, which is both, but like it's hard to get traction sometimes and it's hard to keep traction. But I think if you're doing things on your own terms and you are doing what you want to do and you're happy with it, like you're better off than a vast majority of artists. And yeah, no, okay, I will say if you want to hear some great stories and great perspective on the music industry from somebody who's been in there, go watch T-Pain stream. Go check out his Twitch streams or watch some of the recaps on his YouTube channel, because he has some great perspectives and story just about what he's gone through and like, you know, the way things are. I know a clip went viral the other day talking about how he was talking about how like surprise albums are never a surprise. Like it's a surprise to you, to the fan, but it's not a surprise to the people that worked on it for 6 months. And that's like, you know, it's not like that they, you know, do all this stuff in a week and they get it out. Like, yeah, they might release a track in a week, but when you have an album with a music video and a whole bunch of other stuff, like that's takes time and it takes a lot to really build up to it. So yeah, it's an interesting kind of thing to deal with. There is dealing with the industry. You know, as I've been going through it for the past couple of well, not couple of years, it's been like 10 years now, I don't know why I'm saying couple. I actually have started to enjoy the the other, like the business part as well as the music part, because it's a different challenge for me. It's something that makes me get out of my comfort zone. You know, like I'm not really a social media marketer or a video editor or anything like that, but I've had to learn some of those skills in order to do things on my own, or, you know, with, you know, help from my team and stuff like that. And it's like, it's always challenging me. It's always pushing me to try new things and to get better. And like in the music side, I do that anyway. I always am trying to do new things. And I can give you a little verbal sneak peek, but my remix is coming out in probably in a month or so now, once I finish it this weekend. It's like my first official vocal track remix. And for a while, I just was not really focusing on making vocal tracks or anything like that. It just wasn't something I wanted to do, and I didn't really think I would be great at it. And so, you know, I got asked to remix this song, and I was like, you know what, this might be a good chance to try something new and to push myself and get out of my comfort zone. So I took it. And like, you know, I had done other vocal projects for clients and stuff, and you know, for more commercial stuff, but never something like on my own for fun. So it's, you know, that the challenging myself on the music side is already coming naturally. That's something I already do. But when it comes to the like the business side of things and the promotional sides of things, it's very fun and interesting to kind of push myself into that. Um, Another thing is that if you know how to do all this stuff, when you get to the point where you need to outsource and you need to hire people, you'll know when they're screwing you over, because you'll be like, you know, yo, I already did this. Like, this is, I know you're getting one over on me, you know, so cut it out, because I've already done all this stuff. I just got you to help me out, you know, at the time. So yeah, it's fun. It's a good thing. It's chill. It's one of those things where you kind of get used to stuff and kind of just try it out. But yeah, wow. I'm sorry. I'm just looking over here. It was storming really bad for like the past 10 minutes, and then it just stopped. It's weird. We've had really weird weather the past week or so. Just a lot of random, really bad rain out of nowhere, and then nothing else. And yeah, so it's it's cool. I'll tell you one thing. Okay, since I'm kind of, ooh, see, that was a little bit loud thunder right there. Yeah, I'm like, okay. Um, One thing I'll tell y'all real quick when it comes to music marketing, music producing in general, and stuff like that, is that there's so many. This kind of ties back into what I was talking about earlier. Is that there's so many different ways to succeed in this industry. Sample it, yeah, I know, right? Let me go pull out my mic and yeah, get absolutely drenched. But there's so many ways to succeed. Like, I realized this a couple years ago, and it kind of changed my perspective. Um, there are literally hundreds of DJs and producers who are out there. Well, not now, but in the past, up until COVID, they were out there touring the world, playing shows, making a living that I had no idea, I'd never heard of. And I'm out here listening to all the big names, from all a couple different genres like Diplo, Above and Beyond, J Tech, Shingo Nakamura, all the different spectrums. Prof. Uh, he used to go by Flight, but he changed his name now, I believe. The drum and bass artists, like people all over the place, all the big names, you see at the big festivals and stuff. There's like entire subclasses of DJs and producers that are like, it's like almost like not like a hierarchy, like a rigid hierarchy, but it's more like there's entire subclasses of producers and stuff that are able to find a living and are able to play music and travel the world and do that stuff like on their own terms or throughout other avenues. Like, they're producers that make sound packs for a living and sample packs. There are producers that do sync licensing. They might have 500 different songs synced to 1,000 different TV shows and movies. Like, there's not one. You don't have to be some huge name and get on X giant label and get at X giant festival in order to make it. Like, that's not at all what you have to do. But yeah, sample packs and plugin development is probably the most like future proofed part of the industry, because there will always be people that will buy sample packs and that will buy plugins. Sync licensing is super lucrative, and it's accessible if you know. Okay, sorry, let me rewind it a little bit. But if you have, when I talked about earlier, the targeted media list, if you have a targeted media list, you should look up sync licensing agents and companies and put them on your targeted media list and send them your new releases, because now that email is going to look a little different than your standard pitch email, but you never know what might happen. A story just from my personal career, I had a track that super old track that I kind of forgot about, and I pitched I basically sent a sync agent all the songs I had produced so far, so like 35, 40 songs. This was like 2 years ago. And I titled it electronic music, blah, 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 so that if they're ever searching for that in a future project, my email will pop up, the subject, my email will pop up. That's a pro tip right there. And so I did that. And, I had gotten to know them a little bit. So we had been talking, and then they had started listening to my stuff after we had like built a rapport. And, they're like, hey, this old song, we might use it in the background of this scene in this indie film. Are you cool with that? It'll be, real small, not a ton of time, whatever, just to kind of get your feet wet in the sync game and that kind of thing. And I was like, yeah, this song was something I basically forgot and I never really thought about. Yes, I do. Yep, I do license for ads and stuff like that. It was a track that I just kind of was like, whatever, I made it. It's, it's in the past. But to new people, your music will always be new, even your old stuff. Like, what you want is you want your stuff to be on streaming services and stuff, so that when new people discover you, they can go through and listen to everything, because they might not like your newest release, but they might love a track you produced 3 years ago. That's why, like, when I see people taking music off of streaming services and stuff, I don't really like that. I feel like unless it's something to do with your label, if you're in a disagreement with your label or whatever, or, but when you're like shelving and vaulting content, to me, that just feels, I'm like, why? All you're doing is making it harder for new people to latch on to you. Like, if it's an exclusive song, like, oh, hey, this is a song I'm giving only to my Twitch subs or whatever, then yeah, that's fine. But if it's a song that's out everywhere else and you just decided, I don't want this song on Spotify anymore, but I'm gonna leave every other song on, but that one, I don't get it. I don't know. People are particular about things, so I'm not gonna say that that's the wrong way to do it. But I've had people who have listened to my older stuff and have actually decided to start listening to my newer stuff because they like the older stuff. So I don't want to take that chance away from people. I feel like you should be giving people as many chances as they need to, latch on to your stuff. But yeah, it's yeah, I actually I do I've sent out for ads and stuff. I haven't got any placements in any ads yet. I've got one placement in an indie film that's been delayed because of COVID, so I have no idea when it will come out, or but when it does, I'm gonna be super hyped because it's like my first placement. But it happened, the deal and everything happened so long ago that I'm just been kind of like waiting for it. But yeah, it's sync licensing is really, there's a guy, so I listen to a lot of music podcasts, business podcasts and stuff, and so I was listening to one from if you've ever heard of Ari Herstand, he's a musician, guitar player, songwriter, really awesome. He wrote a great book on how to make it in the new music business. That's my unofficial plug for it because it's really good. You should check it out. But he also runs a podcast of the same name, and he had this guy named Vo Williams on there. Vo Williams is a rapper with, I had never heard of him before, and dude has over 1,000 syncs, including a bunch of trailer syncs. He had like a sync on. He had the background vocals of one of the trailers for a Transformers movie or something else. Like all these really big, high profile syncs. And he just talked about his process and how he makes a ton of tracks. And then, if people are going for a certain feel, like, oh, I want something that's Migos meets Kanye West or whatever, he'll try and do that because maybe they don't have the budget to hire Migos or to license that song. So instead they come to Vo and they get it from him or that sort of thing. And he talks about he placed a lot of music in music libraries, and he's done a bunch of different things to kind of get his music to all the decision makers. And yes, yes, Mike PB, and that's very true. It does take time, and in the business you got to grind, and you got to know the business too. Like, kind of wrapping that back to Vo Williams, like you gotta. He took time to look at sync licensing and look at the types of tracks that were being used in trailers and in TV and movie, and then he was like, okay, I'll go ahead and try and replicate that, and then get it to those same libraries. That way, I would actually go listen to that podcast episode. It's really, really good, and he really kind of breaks it down. Um, I'll say another thing about that too is that you would be surprised, a lot of bigger projects like indie music and indie producers, because they're not as expensive as those big names, yet they're still quality music. Like, the most important thing, if you're interested in licensing a track, there are a couple things you need to do. The first thing is, and this goes all the way back to the beginning of the stream today, you need to make sure you have your music registered at the appropriate places. If you don't have it registered with a PRO or with Sound Exchange, or with any of the registration bodies, they technically can't use your music. I mean, they can, but they have to go and make sure you get that registered beforehand, because they have to send cue sheets to all those places with all the music used. And if your music's not registered, when they get that cue sheet, they're not going to know who to pay, and that just adds another layer of headache to the music supervisor, to his or her job, or their job. Um, so that right there is one thing. You need to make sure it's registered. You need to make sure that you are very professional and very quick. Like, if they ask you, I need this track in a wave format to send it to the video, to editing, to send it to editing, you should have that in their inbox as soon as possible. Like I'm saying, I've heard stories from other producers where they were late on a day or two of replying to an email, and they lost the sync because they didn't respond, so they had to go get it they got it from somebody else. So it's like, if they really want to use your track, they'll be like, hey, I need this, send it to me. But you don't want to make them have to contact you a bunch of times. So you should definitely be professional, reach out to them. If they reach out to you, be like, yeah, okay, I'll get it. I'll get it to you. Um, when it comes to let's see, what else is really good with being with sync? You should know what type of music and what type of projects you're going for. Like, um, okay, I'll use a personal story. So my first sync, I got it because I'm a big fan of Altered Carbon. I watched season one, and I went on IMDb and Google are your good friends. And I looked up who did the music for it, and that's how I found the company that I reached out to. I started following them on Twitter, waited a couple months, trying to, figure out a way to contact them. Um, and then after everything that kind of happened around like March of last year, in April, around George Floyd, they were kind of like, hey, if any producers that are BIPOC or, or producers in general want to reach out and ask us questions, we're more than welcome to. So I just reached out and asked a question, and then, talked to them, and then it led to them being interested in what I was doing because we developed the relationship then. And then that's when I sent all my music over, and then that's what happened. So, I mean, that's kind of more of a situational story, but if you like look up the people who are working on your favorite shows and then look up their social media and like start following them and interacting with them a little bit, not like being super aggressive, but just if they say, hey, I'm going to do a 30-minute Q&A, just jump in there on Twitter and ask a question or something, and then maybe they'll be like, hey, slide in my DMs and I'll talk to you, and then there you go. Or if the company if they do basic soliciting, all you got to do is go to their website for the company, and they'll have an email or a form where you can fill out your info, and then they'll contact you that way, and then you can get your music to them if they're interested, that kind of thing. So that's a little quick tip when it comes to sync licensing and reaching out to music supervisors and stuff like that. Yeah, so I think that's kind of a good like set of tips. Just all this kind of ties in together. Like I think you have to realize too that a lot of people, and myself, I'm included in this, like if you don't really know the business or you don't know what's going on, you can't really succeed in it. Like you have to understand like the basics at least, like of what you're doing and of what you're trying to accomplish. I mean, you should have set goals for your production creating music. Like I mean, I don't mean not having like huge goals, but you should start your goals small and like build up to it, because everybody wants to be huge and play the big festivals and all that, but to me, you should start with smaller goals, because as you knock them out, you're building momentum. My first goal when I first started was to finish one track. Then it was to get 10 people listening. Then it was to get 50 followers on SoundCloud, that kind of thing. Right now I want 10 followers for June on Twitch. Just start with small goals and build from there. And it it'll help you kind of stay in perspective and help you keep progressing. When it comes to music, like I want to finish 2 tracks this week, or I want to finish an album a month or an album a year, or like a full album a year. You have all different types of options. Like you shouldn't, the worst. Okay, not the worst. I'm not going to call people out, but I think the most backwards thing is when somebody asks you like what your goals are, and you're like, I want to make $25 trillion off of CD sales, and then I want to play 18 trillion festivals and make $20 trillion. It's like nobody's doing that right now. Like no one's, you got to look at the market a little bit, and you got to look at the business side of things and see what's working. I mean, like there are people if you can't sell, okay, no, let me say this a little bit more tactfully and delicately. If you can't sell one t-shirt to a fan, you should probably work on getting to those fans and getting your music to them and turning them into fans before you worry about other things. Because that's the same way. Like I'm not worried about other things, because right now, like I have stuff I'm doing when it comes to my merch and my music that I'm focused on. And like, I see a lot of people talking about, I want to hit all these playlists and stuff, and I'm like, where's your email list? Where's your website? You don't even have like a social media page set up for your music. I'm not saying that is necessary per se. Like you can be a musician and not have that stuff. But you need to be realistic. Like if you're trying to make it to the upper echelons of your genre, like you have to kind of do the steps and put in the work. Like if I didn't have a Twitch channel, I wouldn't expect to be, or if I didn't have a Facebook or a website or whatever, I wouldn't expect to have any of these things. Part of the reason why I got my first international gig in 2019 was because I emailed the people that put the festival on, seeing if, about booking, and they went to my website and my Spotify and listened to my music, and then they engaged me about bringing me out to Estonia. Like that, it's you got to have that stuff there. It's just going to be a lot easier if somebody likes your music and they can go straight to your website and join your email list, or they can follow you on Twitter and on Spotify or whatever. Boom, there you go. You've got a fan now. You've got somebody interested. Then you can start to do the other things that you can start your, if you use marketing terms, you can start your fan funnel. You can move down to the bottom of funnel and turn them into a fan that buys merch and is streaming your album, you know 20 times a week, or not a week, but well, if you're a BTS fan, you probably do that 30 times a month or whatever. And it's like, yeah, it's just, I mean, I think that you got to put in some work and some time to really learn these things. And you also need to realize too, and this is something I learned, that I'm just kind of talking. So if y'all are like, want me to explain something else or do something else, I'm just kind of going right now. But there are producers that might be bigger or smaller than you that are making a comfortable living from music. Like, you can't use people's social media appearance or their numbers. You can't always use that as like the gospel, because some people don't really post on social media, but they've done the score for 3 movies. Maybe they're movies you've never watched or heard of, but they're in that industry circle, that kind of thing. Like, there's different levels. It's there's levels to this shit, man. Like, you gotta be able to kind of and excuse my language if I curse, excuse me. But there's levels to it. Like, not everybody is some big giant, headlining ultra music festival producer or DJ, but there's, heck, there's the guys at the Red Bull, the Red Bull music, like the turntablism challenges. Those dudes are some of the best DJs in the world. And your average dance music fans probably never heard of them. Like, I mean, they've heard of A-Track because it's A-Track, but like, like Miles Medina and guys like that are absolute legends, scratching and juggling and all that kind of stuff, that it's just, it's more of a niche genre. But those dudes are successful and they make a living, and they've played around the world doing that. Like, don't like feel like you have to be some huge giant. Yeah, exactly, Plumas. Most of the DMC champs are basically unknown, even though they're like fantastic DJs. Don't feel like you have to be some giant to make it or whatever. I mean, you just got to be smart. You got to be adaptable, and you got to be fast and fluid. Like, um, I I personally have been messing around lately making TikToks, not because I'm trying to blow up, but because the first thing is that it's actually kind of fun, because I suck at video editing, but the video editing tools in that app are so easy that like anybody can make a decent video. Well, you know what I mean? Like, you can suck at video editing like me and still make a watchable video. But the real important thing is that right now TikTok has the algorithm is crazy right now. Like, if you put up a decent piece of content, like, it can go super viral randomly overnight. And like, it's just fun to just mess around with that and test and see. Like, you got to test things out and see what happens. um YouTube was like that for a while. YouTube is a little bit more mature now, so it's a little bit harder if you're like just getting started. But if you have a cool YouTube channel with a lot of content, that's actually a great place to build on. um I think Twitch is fun. I don't have a huge following here on Twitch, but I enjoy it. Like, I really didn't think I was going to like Twitch streaming as much as I do. That's right, social media and SEO. SEO is really important. Um, like, the not the worst thing, but it's not good when somebody Googles your name trying to find your music and totally other random stuff pops up for it. Like, it helps if you have a unique artist name and stuff like that, but if you don't, you have to work really hard to boost your website and your social media and stuff in the search rankings. Um, and I'm not a web developer, so like that's all stuff I've just done from like watching tutorials and videos and stuff like that. But it's yeah, it's interesting. You get some really cool stuff. I mean, even when it comes to festivals and stuff, like don't think that just because you're small, you are out of luck or you can't get it. If you have good music and if you are professional and respectful to the people you're reaching out to, like sometimes they might book you to play on a side stage just because like, hey, this person's got good music. I know they'll show up on time, and they're obvious. Another bonus is they're cheaper than me getting some big name headliner and flying them out. Like I can fly this dude out and pay him half as much as what I would pay for somebody else and still get a quality performance. And also too, you have to realize a lot of promoters and promoters want to be like, hey, we broke this guy. He was at our festival first before he got huge. Like, we're tastemakers. So that's another kind of avenue you have as well. I mean, and it helps too if you're like me and you're you're semi insane that you can get told no 8,000 times and it doesn't bother you. Like when it comes to that kind of stuff, I cold call or I cold email or I reach out to like 50 to 100 clubs and festivals a year and get told no by like half of them. But the 10% that don't say no, I get somewhere and I get some traction. That's really, really how it kind of happens sometimes. I mean, um, like if you don't live in a big, it definitely builds resilience. If you don't live in a big kind of electronic music city, or if you don't live in a place where your genre is really popping, and you know, I would always suggest first to build that scene yourself. Find a bar that has an open night or a club that has an open night and ask them if you can start throwing a party like let me start throwing a deep house techno party. No cost to you. I'll try and fill the place. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. No harm, no foul. But try and start building a place. Or if you have to, if you have extra money or whatever, rent it yourself. And then after you throw a couple successful parties, they might be like, hey, let's make this full time thing, and we'll let you use the venue for free, that kind of thing. Um, and we'll split ticket sales with you, whatever. That is an option. Like you have different ways and pathways to get there. Like don't feel boxed in. Look at like Monster Cat, man. Monster Cat, who actually a couple months ago they bought Silk Music, and I'm a big fan of Silk, and I know the people that run Silk and some of the artists on there I'm friends with and talk to, and the way they have just Monster Cat's whole system has taken Silk to a place where I, as someone who loved it, never thought they would, because I always thought it would be this little niche progressive house label. I didn't think they would ever be having Shingo Nakamura's song as the opening song on Rocket League right now. You know what I mean? Like Monster Cat has such interesting business strategies. Like that's a place to look at. Like they're in gaming. They they dominated YouTube for basically the past 10 years or so. I mean, they're still big on it, obviously. They're really good at developing their fan base. Like the people that love Monster Cat, they're all over their Discord, they're on their Twitch and stuff like that. Um, Great label and a great like forward thinking business structure. I mean, I could talk about a whole bunch of different producers that I think are doing a great job with things, and it's yeah, it's fun. It's nice. I mean, there's definitely a benefit to looking at other producers, other labels, other artists. I don't even look in electronic music as much as I look in outside electronic music to see what's going on, because you have like a whole wave of independent rappers and producers on the hip hop side that are doing lots of really cool things and are like they have very interesting perspectives and very interesting ways to operate in the music business. So yeah, don't you shouldn't just take all. Also, you should look across the spectrum of music to get influence and to get ideas. And I mean, I learned some of the music marketing stuff from watching this dude who talked about marketing punk rock tours and how he marketed tours for some punk rock artists when they went overseas, and he used Facebook ads and a couple other things. And like, yeah, that, I don't listen to punk rock that much, but I found value in what he was saying, and I used that to try out my own version of it, basically, blending what he did into something I could use and utilize in my genre. And I think it kind of worked. I mean, I've been doing some testing recently on Facebook ads, and I've seen some nice gains on Spotify. And it's literally a 15-second video with a clip of my track Deadbolt, and it says "Listen now" on Spotify. Real simple ad, video ad, and it's connects to it's a toned in smart link, but it has Spotify, Apple Music, SoundCloud, all that stuff on there, and then people can click, and I'm tracking conversions on there to see who clicks through to the actual, like, Apple Music or Spotify or whatever. And I'm just tracking Spotify, and it's like, with a real low budget, I've seen like decent results, like results that make me go, wow, if I put some money into this could be nice, like. So yeah, you have lots of options. Let me think. Another piece of advice I've heard that I like to pass on is that I actually heard this earlier this year, listening to a little Spotify session, and the guy was like, if you want to he was talking about data and metrics and like what to pay attention to. And he said, if you want to pay attention to, like, if you want to find out who your fans are, like, look at the data of the people who buy a t-shirt from you, because those are the people who are spending their hard-earned money on you and your art. Like, that is the most important gauge. Like, if somebody, my own personal belief is, if somebody spends time or their time or their money on me, like, that's the biggest honor you can have as an artist, because there's thousands and even some places millions of other things they could spend or they could go do, or spend their time listening to, what have you. So if they choose to spend their time listening to you, or to buy your merch, or to buy your music and stuff like that, it's like that it's awesome. It's great. And that's also people you want to look at and go, so this person likes Xbox and Marvel and DC Comics, and they like Eric Prydz and Above and Beyond. So, now from looking at that, okay, my fan base tends to like gaming, and they like progressive house and trance, or they like deep house and drum and bass, blah, blah, blah. You can gather ideas and metrics about your audience from looking at like a large sample size of those people and seeing kind of what they like and what they're into. So yeah, it's fun, it's cool. There's a lot of different ways to kind of handle this and do things. And like, I mean, another thing I'll say that I struggled with for a few years when I first started is that, and Plumas is gonna know, I've said this so much now, I'm probably annoyed people, but done is better than perfect. Like, even if your music isn't perfect, like, even if there's spots in your mix that aren't necessarily the best or whatever, if it's done, it's done. You can move forward, you can learn from that track, and you can put it towards the next one. And it's funny too, because I've noticed my tracks that I think are the best mixed are my ones that don't really do as well as my tracks that I think aren't mixed as well. But for some reason, it resonates with people. You never know what people are going to love. Like, sometimes you have to put something out. Like, you might think it's a stinker, but yeah, people might love it. Like, it depends. I mean, it might be a meme, but hey, a meme will still get you some new fans. It might get you paid a little bit. So it's like, well, now don't become meme rappers or meme producers, but you know what I mean? Like, if you have a rough around the edges mix or whatever, it's not the end of the world. You can get better. You have, plenty of time. Like, I've been going at this since 2008, 2009, and like, I'm still improving and I'm learning every single day when I'm mixing and I'm, working on new music. And I feel like if you listen to my music, it's been a steady gradual improvement, like, up. But I feel like the journey is important too, because like, people start at the beginning and they hear what I sound like, and then they get to what I sound like now, and they're like, wow, his music's still similar, but it sounds so much better, and like this and that works better, blah blah blah. It's that progression, that journey. So yeah, it's fun. It's kind of a interesting thing to go with. Um, yeah, but I really think a lot of producers think they can just put some music up and put it out there, and then or artists in general, and then oh yeah, everybody's got to love it and take it seriously. I'm like, their Spotify says they get 40,000 songs uploaded a day to the platform. So you have to do things to either stand out from those 40,000 songs, or you have to develop an audience and find an audience already so that when you put something out, people will latch onto it. Like, you can't just put some stuff out and be like, "Yo, I'm good. We're cool. We're gonna make it. We're gonna be playing Coachella next week, dog." Like, no, that's not how it works. Like, unless you're like the 0.0001% chance where you just blow up overnight, and then you're super lucky like that. But even that luck was years of hard work, of you working behind the scenes. So yeah, and then the on the opposite side of that problem is when you have Anderson Paak and Bruno Mars making a funk album, a soul funk album, and literally refusing to put it out before summertime because I don't know why they're doing that. I know it's a meme. They're just dragging out the release of it. But that Sonic Soul album has got to come out just so that people will calm down. Like it's it's wild, man. People are just their Twitter mentions every day are hilarious. It's just people yelling at them, "Bring us the album," like and they said it was done. So you can't, I don't really blame the people for being a little fed up. They're just playing marketing games, but it's working. Summer 2022, exactly, Plumas. They're like, "Oh, we're gonna release it next year, man." Like, nah, you gotta come correct with that. Yeah, it's man, what I would have loved to have produced even like 30 seconds of that album. Like, I think people don't realize too, like when you get on with bigger artists and stuff like that, even if you're only getting like a 5 or a 10% producer point, which is like a percentage, um man, that 5 or 10%, the way those guys are streamed, the way those guys are sync licensed, the way those guys are played all over TV and radio, like that 5 or 10%, you be set. You know what I mean? Like that's a nice look for a lot of independent producers and a lot of producers in general. So it's like it's wild. Like, if a bigger artist wants to work with you, make sure you get things down in writing and then get a contract, and make sure you don't like sign stuff away just cuz you're like intimidated, or you're like, "Oh, I'm working with so and so. I don't want to, you know, close any doors or anything like that." Don't worry. I mean, don't let yourself be pressured into bad deals. That's what the music industry had used to do, and it still tries to do for a while. Like, you gotta just you don't be desperate. You gotta come in there knowing your value, knowing your worth, and being like, if something doesn't work for you, just step away. Because 9 times out of 10, they want to work with you, so they'll make it happen. Like, you don't have to worry about things going too crazy. And things, that if they don't, then oh well, they don't. You just walk away. Like, it's not there. If you're on their radar, that you hopefully will have other opportunities. It means you're on other people's radars too. Um, Generally, now that's not always the case, but sometimes. But yeah, so it's I've been waxing poetic for the past hour about the music business. It is actually kind of fun. I always, I write a couple articles here and there for electrofans.com, but I never really get to sit and talk about this outside of to like, a couple of my good friends who care about it, and then like to my team. That's really about it. And my team's pretty small, so I feel like I'm always talking about the same stuff to them, and they're like, "Yo, like, can we talk about something different?" But yeah, it's I think you have to be. I'm in an abundance mindset when it comes to this. Like, there are 7 billion people on this planet. Literally everyone could find an audience. They just have to work hard and know what they're doing, and like actually try to find an audience. I mean, when people are competing for like the same 10 fans, and like you realize there's like 100 people over here who have no idea who you are, like, because you're not reaching them. Like it's I think everybody can get in. Like you don't need to hide and hold information because obviously some stuff is got to be behind closed doors and stuff like the inner workings of the deal or like your financials and all that. But there's a lot of people who are giving out absolute music industry gems every day on Instagram, on YouTube, whatever, on TikTok, and then people are still acting like they can't do anything or it's a super gatekeeper industry and stuff. I mean, it is gatekeepers, but what you can do is you can set yourself up to operate around them or through them without having to deal with them. Like if you have a big fan base already, especially because side note, big labels don't want to develop fan bases anymore. Big labels are like investors investing in startups. They want something hot that they can just pour money into so it, pour gasoline on so it lights up. They don't want to have to build the actual fire. They just want it to be already lit and then just keep it burning. So it's like, if you have fans, if you have a dedicated fan base, you have an email list, you're already getting streams and stuff. If you're already running a merch store and stuff like that, if a label approaches you and they try and give you a bad deal, you can be like, bro, I'm already doing this. I don't really need y'all. Like, you don't have to be pressured into that stuff. You can just keep doing your thing. Now, if they're smart, they'll go, well, hey, we want to help you with this, so we won't give you this bad deal, but we want to make some money off of it, so we'll give you like a profit share or something like that. Then that might be better because then they have the resources. They can pump millions of dollars in your ad campaign and do stuff like that. And if you're doing a profit share, that's actually better than nothing, especially if you can keep your masters and things like that. Which brings me to another point, which is another great thing. I'm just thinking of remembering all these gems I heard. Like, I think this was Steve Stout, the guy who owns United Masters, the distribution service. He was talking about like owning your masters is great only if you know what to do with it. Like, if you own your masters and you don't know how to get sync licensing or you don't have any streams or you don't have a fan base, like you're just owning masters that aren't generating anything. So that's another thing too. Like it is important, and I would suggest always to own your masters, but you got to be working them. Like you can't just own them and expect that that's all you need to do. But yeah, um, man, I'm like wow. I am like wow. That was very fun to talk about. I'm sorry, I had to get into that a little bit. There's a lot of okay, yes, I should take a drink. I will hydrate. Thank you, Plumas. There are a lot of really really good people out there that are kind of, crushing their own careers and doing awesome stuff independently and they're sharing everything with it. Indepreneur, that's a great company to check out. Um, they have a podcast they run called Creative Juice, and they talk about all sorts of different things. One of the co-hosts, she basically runs her own. She's been running her own career for years, and like she's clearing, I believe her music and her streaming, and then her merch store and stuff is clearing like six figures yearly. And then she's doing all her own marketing and stuff like that and promotion and um basically been doing everything herself, and she's tested like every single ads campaign style, stuff like that. Like it's a great podcast to just listen to, and I mean, I would say start from the beginning, but some of the information's changed as the platforms have changed, so it might be better to start with the newer episodes and kind of work your way back. But yeah, lots of good stuff. Lots of places to take in. Rick Barker, he is actually was the guy Taylor Swift's first manager who helped build her for her career before he stepped away to because he was spending so much time on the road, and he was like, I want to spend time with my daughters. His music industry blueprint podcast is good. He's got a book too. You know what? Actually, let me 1 second. Let me grab something real quick. So reading this book right now, The Indie Band Survival Guide. It's a little dated, but it's great tips. And the guys that wrote it actually have a newer version that's an ebook that they're distributing on their site. It's a Randy Churtkow and Jason. Oh, it's covered up by a sticker. Randy Churtkow and okay, Jason Feehan. That's the two authors here. So this is a great book right here. This thing, The Music Business Explained in Plain English, is another great book. It's David Nagar. He's a music attorney, so he explains all the different license like deals and stuff in legalese, and he tries to break it down simply. And he talks about cases that he's done with his clients and stuff. This is a book I'm getting to, and all these books I bought at a used bookstore, so you can probably find them, and you can probably find updated versions on Amazon or on Barnes and Noble bookstore, wherever you get books, you can probably find it. Go to your library. The Business of Artist Management by Frascogna Herthington. This is another good book I'm starting to read because it's from a manager's perspective. And once again, this ties into if you know or if you're familiar with what a music attorney or a music manager, all that, if you know generally what they do, you'll know when they're not doing their job. This is more of a book on business. This is Incorporate Yourself, Ink Yourself by by Judith McQuone. I'm probably butchering all these names. So if y'all see this, I'm plugging your book, but I'm sorry if I butcher your names. But Ink Yourself is basically about how to set up your own corporation and profit from it. And then I haven't started this yet, but this is the Everything Songwriting book from C.J. Watson. So I'm going to start reading this soon. And there's other books. How to Make It in the New Music Business by Ari Herstand is a good one. Rick Barker, who I was talking about his podcast, he has a new book. It's like the $150,000 music degree, where he talks about how to make 150 grand in a couple years just from music and stuff like that. Yeah, there's a couple other good ones. Let me put these back on the shelf real quick. I'll give you all the beautiful BRB. Okay. Yeah, and so that's just the yeah, Plymouth, I wish I had a little hotkey setup where I could play like Jeopardy music, because that would have been kind of funny. But that is just the books I'm reading about the music business, or I have read before I finished. Then there's books about songwriting. There's books about there's one book I always heard about how oh, what's the name? It's this lady who wrote this book about something being a rock star, and she was like the manager for some big band, and she was just talking about how she kept them like its strategies to how to manage your time as an artist, and like from a manager's perspective, and how to like make it and that kind of stuff. Interesting stuff in there. There's lots of resources online, lots of good blogs and stuff. I also would suggest going to like Hypebot and the Music Business Worldwide and Billboard to read some of their stories and their news, because like they have info on emerging technologies and all sorts of new stuff that's happening in the business side that you can kind of keep up with. That's really interesting. So yeah, it's real interesting time, real cool time to be in the music industry, and real cool time to like, it's the first time I think in a long time where it's a level playing field. You have indie artists, whether they're fully indie or they're indie with support of like, a publishing company or a label services company. So they're like a step a little bit above being indie, but you have those people hitting, the Billboard Top 100 with their tracks and stuff. Like, I was hearing a story. Some guy their band went viral on TikTok, and then they reached the Billboard, and their track was off of DistroKid. They put it up on DistroKid, like, and a year later, somebody started using it. So you never know. Like, you just gotta kind of do the work, put in, learn some stuff, and then make sure everything is like, all set up and good to go. So yeah, yeah, I think that's probably enough soapboxing about the industry. I just wanted to kind of talk about some things and share some strategies, and kind of hope that everybody, just kind of checks that out and enjoys it a little bit. Um, let's see. Oops, that was my computer. My bad. Let's see here. All right, so now I think what I might do is, I guess I could jump in the studio for a little bit. I don't really have too much to work on. Um, I guess since we're at a little break spot in today's stream, I will say that if you're enjoying the stream today, I'd really appreciate it if you would give me a follow. It helps me keep going. It helps motivate. No, I'm just kidding. It doesn't help motivate me, but it'd be cool to have you all come back and maybe share some stories of what you're working on or some strategies you have, and then we can kind of see how things go as people progress. Also, too, I have my Discord down below in the panels if you want to check that as well. That's where you can basically have a direct contact with me, and on social media as well, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all those sites. So, yeah, really appreciate that. And if you're really feeling the channel and you want to hit me with a sub, I really appreciate that as well. You get some special sub perks. So yeah. While we're at that little make that little plug, I gotta get better at plugging things. Last tip: don't be afraid to. You gotta tell people how they can support you, your fans, and like you gotta don't be afraid to, like, you gotta kind of force yourself into being like, hey, if you're looking to help me out here, you can go here and stream this, or you can go here and send this link to your best friend who loves electronic music, whatever. Like, you gotta put yourself out there. So yeah, okay, now let's work on a little bit of music for a little bit, and then I think before the storm gets too bad again, I'll probably drop everything for today and call it. But we'll go for a little bit. So I'm back to Europa because I don't think I can show that remix anymore. Not saying I didn't get in trouble for it or anything. I just kind of want to leave stuff to the imagination, so, and let everybody hear it when it comes out later. So yeah, build a little anticipation. But all right, so the first thing I want to do here today is I want to adjust this drum send reverb and the levels of the drums. So actually, let me solo this real quick. I did some volume automation the other day of the drum kit and a couple other things to kind of fix it up a little bit and make it a little bit more palatable and flow a little bit. So in order to hear this drum send, I'm going to go ahead and turn the volume off here, and so that's just the raw reverb sound. And I have it drop down -2 decibels just to cut off some of the volume so it's not filling everything in. I have some EQ curves and some notches here and there. I might actually put another notch here in the mids just so it has a little bit of clarity for the other elements going on. I've got my Kyer House Audio Classic Reverb, my old trusty reverb. My settings I'm going to tweak a little bit in a little bit. I'm just kind of talking through the processing chain. Got a fruity compressor on that's pretty, it's got a little bit average attack and a kind of quick release, or somewhat quick release. It's not 200, whatever the default is, 200 milliseconds, but, and it's 4:1 ratio. It's a little bit tough. I want this to be a little bit more compressed because it's reverb. I want it to be controlled. And then I've thrown on a actually super high saturation knob to add some saturation to it. I'm going to turn it down actually a little bit. So, okay, we're going to work here with the dampening a little bit. So that's obviously a little bit too much. And that's not enough reverb. So I like to find a happy medium here. And now I'll also tell you, I like to have a little bit of a low cut that's pretty high, actually, like 300 hertz, because this is a quicker, brighter, more upfront reverb. And I like it to be a little bit more in the high end. Whereas if it was a lower reverb, and or not lower, but if it was like a longer, darker reverb, I would have less low cut because you have more of that mid to low mid sound than a high reverb. Like to visually explain it, when you have a quick reverb, the way reflections and the way reverb works naturally, is that your quicker, more upfront reverbs, smaller reverbs are usually higher pitch because you're just hearing the highs. And then when you have reverbs that are longer, darker, and a little bit like longer and lower, you lose the high end first, because if it's coming from a distance, the sound that's still traveling is that mid to low end. So usually you have a little bit of a shelf here. So yeah, it just depends on the type of reverb you're making and what you want to do. Now, all these rules are meant to be experimented with and broken, so don't take this as the gospel, but it's just kind of how I visualize and think things and how I've learned from, looking things up and studying. So I actually like the high dampening up a little bit, but I'm going to listen to both. Yeah, I don't like having too much pre-delay. I just wanted to hear what it would sound like. Sometimes I just like to see what it'll sound like just to, Yeah, let's turn the reflections up, actually. So now let's hear everything. So the reverb just adds a little bit of texture to the drums and a little bit of like pseudo Haas effect parallel processing, where it's not really, but it kind of is, if that makes sense. Because I'm not sending the full signal. I could send the full signal. So actually, I could do this. Let me copy this real quick so I don't lose it. So I could send the full signal and then just turn the volume down. Because then you're getting that Haas effect where you double the signal and you send the dry signal to your bus, and then you send the wet signal through a reverb and through heavy compression, and then through like saturation and EQ, and then you send it to the same bus that you sent the dry signal, and you mix them back in together. That's basically a Haas effect. So I think that is, you hear the definition, it gives your vocals that presence. I mean, not vocals, your drums that presence. But this works on vocals too, actually. But it gives you drums that presence without, you still get the dynamics and the feel and the attack and the hit of the dry drums too. So this is in the whole track. It's just for this track, it's a little too much. And so I'm going to revert back to what I had before. But I just wanted to showcase that and show it off a little bit. It just so it it's an option you have. And I think this is fine. I think my yeah. So okay, I will say I've been learning a little bit and doing a little bit more research. I never really used this technique because I did all my panning myself, but some people use the 5-point method to create depth. But for me, it's just I like just panning everything kind of not randomly, but however I feel like. So the 5-point panning method is this. So you have, let's say I have 5 sounds here. For demonstrations purposes, let me just grab a sample real quick. Yeah, let's just do this real quick. Okay, so you have 5 sounds. And let me put them in here. So you have one here. And so you basically go through and you pan everything based on how you want it to appear in the stereo field. So let me do 5 different sounds. This is going to sound kind of weird because it's all the same sound, but it's just to provide an example. So, all right, I probably should have set this up if I would have known I was going to be showing this off, and I'm still kind of learning the best practice with it, so it's not necessarily 100% perfect. Yeah, that's a little loud, sorry. Okay. Sorry if that was a little hot to everybody. So here's what you do here. So you have your main element, maybe let's say this is your vocal, so that would be dead center. So then you would pan everything else hard left or hard right, and then any other vocals or any other patterns or sounds you want to appear, you would pan halfway. So you'd pan like 45 or 50, however you want to do. You'd pan halfway. And so it's a way to create depth through almost extreme panning. Like you're getting the one thing straight down the middle, and then you're getting like a hard left and a hard right pan. So you have here and here, and then you're basically filling in the space right here with more instruments and tracks. If you think about it in that way, this, and then dead center is your vocal, and then here it would be like your drums, your vocal, your kick, and your bass line for the most part. Your bass would all be dead center pan. Most of it, everything but the vocal, the kick, and the part of the bass line being mono, that kind of thing. So then you have like your drums and maybe a synth or two going this way, and then the rest of your drums, and then the rest of your background synths and stuff, and the rest of your background sounds and samples would all be hard panned. So that's a way. It's called the 5-point, I believe, the 5-point panning or 5-point method. And then there's LCR, which is just like your standard kind of panning things, however you want them to fit. There's like a whole terminology for LCR and stuff, but I'm not 100% certified on the terminology, so I'll just, you can look those up and learn more about those. That's what I've been doing, is just kind of looking them up. But yeah, okay, let me delete these bells. That was super random, but you'll kind of get what I'm going for there to showcase. All right. So back to what I was working on. Now that I had a little side tangent. So I did a stream on Thursday that was real quick, and it was real light, and I was talking about some new plugins I got, and I did one of them. I failed in my mission to stop downloading all the free plugins I find that are I'm sorry, but if somebody says, "Hey, we're giving away a free promo plugin," I'm like, "Oh, I gotta try it," even though I'm never gonna use it. But so I picked up Ozone Imager, and this thing gives me good stereo imaging. I got some amazing reverbs that are freeware, open source, that I'll show in a second. But so this is a pretty decent for a non-mastered Spectrum field. I don't use the stereo-wise or anything for the width. I just use this as a meter to look. I use span as well. I use span for my mid-side metering, and then I use this for metering. I also got vocal doubler, which I can't really show because this track doesn't have vocals, but it's another good one. Yes, so those reverbs, actually I can show you on the drum send. Let me pull up. So I grabbed the Dragonfly Reverbs, and they are just absolutely spectacular. You get so many amazing. Let me go to the drums here. So smooth, and you can adjust everything. I actually like how this one sounds better than the other one. Just so good, and these are freeware open source plugins, so I mean, if you were crazy, you could like double up on it, but it might get a little muddy. And see, now I hear that one and it makes me not want to use it anymore. Got a little too much reflection on here. Yeah, so okay, reverb is basically just tricking your brain into thinking there's depth in space when there's really not. I mean, it's basically like if you're not actually recording using mics and mic placement, reverb basically fills in that for you. So yeah, it's this track is basically, I'm kind of just tinkering. Like, I know I told myself and I told y'all on stream before I shouldn't be tinkering, but honestly, because that remix took a lot out of me, I'm kind of just, oh, okay, I'll just tinker on this for a little bit and then I think it'll be done. Oh yeah, I need to turn that down. Always remember to turn the levels back down. Singing voice. Okay, sorry, I gotta get a little bit of gain reduction, just a tiny bit. I might have to kick up the ratio. Still got the attack of the drums, but it's compressing the transients a little bit, so that's good. And then it's sending it straight to the drum send. Okay, so another thing to talk about real quick is when you're doing drums and drum automation, like sometimes you can use drum automation to essentially add progression, if that makes sense, to your track. Like if you're leading into a big breakdown or something like that, you can automate how much of your drums goes to the drum send so that you can have it have a little bit more dynamics. So let's stay here. Let's start this at 0 and run an automation clip. And then we'll have it, actually I'm going to start this here and then put a little notch here. And then paste the value. We'll sit at 20 and then we'll bring this up to like, what's a good max? Let's see. This might be a little loud, everybody. Let's do 45. We don't want it to be too crazy. So we'll make that the max. So you can almost feign that it's moving. Let me see here if I can get this right. So here we go. So it might be hard to hear with just, let me just do the drums here and then so it's getting a little bit of reverb. Just a tiny bit, nothing. 0.30. I'm gonna have it rise up a little bit. Oops, no, delete. Okay, so and then you can use that same thing to bring it back down. And then add a little curvature here and there. Okay, so now I'm just going to adjust this. It's real subtle. It's not like you're not gonna really hear too much of it, but it's just kind of in there. It's, you know, sometimes you just got to give yourself and give your listeners a little bit of like subtle details to influence them that they're not really privy to or paying attention. Like you might hide a melody, you know, super low under here. You know, you might have some effects kind of wash in and out, so that they think that, you know, you're moving spaces and stuff like that, you know, when it's really not. It's just you're giving that appearance of movement, you're giving that appearance of space and depth. Yeah, so like this whole section here. Ooh, I just kick. thought I pulled it down enough. Sorry about that. That was bugging me. Okay, so now what I was going to do before I got distracted is I was going to adjust this. Also, I reorganized my plugins, and now I'm like have to get used to where everything is again. After I had just gotten used to it, I know. So, okay, let's talk about this real quick. So, what I'm doing right now is I'm basically I don't know, let me make sure y'all can see the, I'm in windowed mode, so it might not pop up. Okay, it's popping up, all right. So this is Softtube one knob saturation knob. It's a one knob plugin in one little switch. So it basically saturates your sound. Saturation adds fullness because you're basically soft clipping the top of the wave, and instead of it being like round, you're basically squaring it off. And I'm giving you the super basic layman's terms, but it basically helps like thicken your sounds and stuff without you having to do a ton of layering. And one way you can get a lot of clarity, and the word is presence. So like you have to realize a lot of people listen to music on, not great speakers or headphones, like iPhone speakers or stuff like that, things that aren't really maximized for sound and listening. So you have to do some things to make sure, like your bass, for instance, translates well. So it needs to have some, resonancy in the high end mids, and like you need to saturate a little bit. Make sure that when you play it on a iPhone speaker, you can still hear somewhat of a bass line, even though there's no, sub for it to be pushing air out of. So it's like your bass lines don't need to be super high, but you can do some things like saturate the high-end harmonics and stuff a little bit, just to give them a little bit of edge, maybe add a little bit of distortion just to give it a little crispiness so that it pops through on there too without it messing up your rest of your track. So here I'm just doing a little bit of saturation. Not too hot. So that's good. Okay, what I'm doing is I'm shaving a little bit. Yeah, because I got to cut here. I got a shelf. Not sure what I was doing there. Why I didn't cut that out on the bus, but I fixed it now. Maybe I was being nice. Okay. That is solid. I have a slight pan on my reverbs, I might actually extend it a little bit. Kick this up a little bit too. So if I was really crazy obsessive right now, I would use the new FL frequency splitter, and I would split this pluck and the reverb. I'd split it into different sends, and then I would sidechain each of those. But I'm not. It's getting the feel I want without me having to go super crazy on it. I mean, if it was sounding bad, I would switch it up, but I think it's all right. So yeah, I'm not gonna go too crazy on that. That's for another project, another time. But you know what? I do want to actually try, and because I am a different type of crazy, I'm gonna try and stuff another melody in here that probably won't work, but we're gonna give it a good old shot. Because see, I'm an F sharp minor. All right, so let's come up with it real quick. Yeah, alright, so I want to use, let's turn on the ghost notes. Let's use this color. Don't loop, hit the wrong button. Let's try the minor melodic F sharp scale. Okay. I love ghost notes, and I love too how you can just use, you can double, I learned this the other day, you can double right click your ghost notes to go to that pattern. It's great. Anyway, let's see. Disregard the sound, I'm just trying to figure out the melody right now. Let's hear how this sounds in here. Okay, I'm getting there. Maybe like this, and I put a little reverb on it. A flat or the A natural? Let's try the A flat. This might not work. So what if I do this and then I go to the D? Is it, yes, D sharp. I gotta adjust these notes. Well, no, that's A flat. Yeah, it's gotta come up a little bit. Or go down. Let's try C sharp. That was a misclick, my bad. Okay, let me think. Think. That might work. Now I need to change the sound, y'all. So let's... Okay, what do I want to use? Okay, I'll try a new synth I got. I still do not know how to work this, Podolsky, but we'll learn it, or we'll just use a preset and see what we get and go from there. Okay, these are pads. Yeah, it would help if I copied over the pattern. Like, and if it copied over correctly, it's a little too much. Alright, so we'll turn the release down, and then I know there is some type of, here it is. I was like, there's something here. Okay, we're getting somewhere. Let's try. When you start using synths that you're not familiar with, you kind of learn. So there's delay on both sides here. There's a left delay and a right delay that you can mix or split up, and you can set the delay times differently. Okay. So let me and there's a little too much release too. That's actually not bad. This is just kind of like a background. I just want this to show up randomly, kind of. This might not be the right bits, but all right. This actually gives me something to tinker with that actually will advance the track. Why is there latency on here? Oh well, it's not bad. Only a couple milliseconds, but let's see. We don't need no compressor. We need some reverb on here. Let's try one of my new ones. Okay, that's cool. Actually, that worked out. I like it. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and keep that there, and I'll mix that down a little bit better. I'll just do it now real quick. Do a offset and then ping pong it. That's weird. Hold on. Yeah, that's actually kind of cool. Okay, so we'll go with that. It's just a little random sound that pops up randomly. No nothing to it. No word, rhyme, or reason. It's just sometimes you throw in little details like that to mix it up and to give your listeners' ears something new to latch onto, but then you take it away. So like, that was cool, but it's gone. Like, I want to hear it again. So there you go. All right. Well, I think that's enough soapboxing and producing for me for today. Yeah, so if you have any questions or ideas or strategies you want to share or things you want to, get clarity on my little producer business talk earlier, you can hit me up on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I'm on all those. TikTok, I answer them all. You can even, I believe my DMs are somewhat open on a few of those as well. If you want to slide in my DMs, or on here, you can slide in my DMs. But the best place to reach me probably is Discord. You can go ahead and hit the link down below in the panel and check that out. Thank you so much, everybody, for hanging out with me this afternoon. And if you enjoyed the stream, you want to come back and join the Future crew, you can go ahead and hit me with a follow. We really appreciate it. And if you want to check out my music, I'm on all streaming services and platforms. So I'm on, Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, Deezer, SoundCloud, YouTube, basically anything you can stream music on, I'm on there. So yeah, thank you so much for coming and hanging out today. And next stream will probably be Monday night, and then we'll go from there. So yeah, thank you so much, everybody, and I hope y'all have a good one. And thank you so much for tuning in. I'll talk to you all later. See you on the next side. PhuturePhil is out. Actually, you know what? Before I jump off of here real quick, Let's raid somebody. I haven't raided somebody in a while. You know what? I was just gonna let's see who's on real quick, and then is Miller still on? Yeah, we'll raid Miller. I think he's talking about Avengers game and stuff. I'm a gamer too, so we'll go over here. Actually, let me look real quick and see who else is on. Let me not be Miller's the last person I rated. Let me not be the only Miller raider. Let's see here.
Yep.
All right. Oh, that's some audio from Twitch coming in. Thanks, Twitch. Okay, Miller's on. Who's on music right now? Amazon Brazil. Oh, there's a Out Loud Raising Voices Pride Kickoff concert. Green Lantern. Let's see who. Anybody else that I can chill with? Man, I wish Randy was streaming today or later today. I would have just rated him. Let's see. I don't know who to raid now, y'all. Let me see here. DJ Sneak. Oh, he's a legend. That might be a good one too. I'm trying to see if there's anybody that isn't already like super popular to raid. Okay. I'm resorted to having to search Deep House and see who's running any streams right now. Nobody. Yeah, I wish Twitch had better deep, like they had better things going on. Okay, let's see. DJ MUC. Let me check them real quick. Let's see. Yeah, you know what? We're gonna go ahead and raid DJ MUC. He's a DJ out of Japan. We're gonna go ahead and check him out. Thank you, Plumas, for telling me that he was on, because I actually realized I don't follow him, so I need to change that later. So we'll go ahead and come over here and give him a raid. All right, everybody ready? Let's go start the raid. Let's go kick it with DJ MEC. All right, everybody ready? We're heading over. Thank you all again for hanging out with me today. I really appreciate it. And we'll see you.